Permaculture, abundance by design. In 1758, the father of classification Carl Linnaeus so cleverly coined our species Homo sapiens, meaning wise man. Not a question of objective taxonomy, but looking at our planet. Is man really so wise? Wisdom comes through understanding, and as the philosopher Jason Silva suggests, to understand is to perceive patterns. From cells to solar systems, and flowers to cities, our world is built on patterns, or moreover, laws, fundamental laws that govern life. In the spirit of ideas we're spreading, my goal today is to navigate you toward a system of design and pattern offering you a life of abundance. It's a destination to which we have not arrived. First, we must take a trip through humanity's current system of design, scarcity by design. Ask any biologist about the natural world and they'll tell you that our lives are rooted in pattern. Biological laws help plants grow. They are the reason we have air to breathe, and they make sure our world is full of resiliency. We have far more to thank Mother Nature for than our world gives her credit for. Not to mention, this has been her home for billions of years. Despite all our gracious mother does, we treat her like a credit card with no spending limit, overdrafting her diversity of life into extinction, tearing the lifeblood and lungs of trees out of her chest, and spewing our black smoky cough of progress into her home. I want to suggest that we aren't destroying our planet through lack of intelligence. Rather, we are dismissing a world of abundance that Mother Nature so wishes to bestow upon us through harmony with laws of life. Assuming the best of humanity, I think one thing we all might need is a refresh of the patterns around us, so that we may partake in the living wealth of our biosphere. Let's start with biodiversity. Biological diversity is kind of like having extra food in your fridge. If you run out of turkey, you can still put ham on your sandwich. It's the redundancy and resiliency of life. It's making sure that if a couple organisms get wiped out by a disease or pest, then the ecosystem or farm still has enough functional, productive organisms that it won't come crumbling down or collapse. Another pattern that comes to mind is ecological carrying capacity. This law is comparable to speed limit signs. The speed limit is the fastest your car can go, or should go, before its speed is unsafe for the road. Similarly, ecological carrying capacity is the largest a population can get before the whole ecosystem starts experiencing large-scale problems. Currently, humanity is existing in a state called overshoot. This means that globally, we are consuming more of the planet than it's able to yield sustainably. In other words, we are eating, consuming, and killing more life and materials than Mother Nature can simply crank out, each year going further and further into ecological deficit. Despite sound ethics and cogent science, these laws are likely to prove that humanity is not exempt from laws of nature. Humanity is not apart from Mother Nature. We are, in very literal ways, blood vessels and veins tying together the web of life. To destroy Mother Nature is to destroy ourselves. To save Mother Nature is to save ourselves. And as the spoken word artist Richard Williams conveys, whatever you're fighting for, racism or poverty, feminism, gay rights, or any type of equality, it won't matter in the least. Because if we don't all work together to save and nurture the environment, we will all be equally extinct. Though this may be the reality of today, let me continue to navigate you toward a system of design and pattern offering you a brighter tomorrow, a world built with harmony in design. You wouldn't believe it, but in my 18 years of being a human, I've found something of a solution. It's not only free, but it'll actually save you money. It's an act of permanence and won't infringe on anyone's rights. And it's applicable and accessible anywhere you go on the planet. In a grand act of unveiling and arrival, we're here, permaculture. As coined by Bill Mollison and David Holmgren, permaculture is a combination of two words, permanence and agriculture, to create a permanent system of agriculture. Not just any kind of culture, but one built on the foundation of these three pillars: earth care, people care, and fair share. This mnemonic phrase describes everything that permaculture is about. It's a relationship between ecology and design. Ecology is observing the innumerable relationships that happen around us, while design is an act of nurturing these relationships through the logic of the natural world as a template. Here's an example. Back in 2015, I was pretty fed up with traditional gardening. It required me to buy fertilizer or compost, rototill it into the soil, design this elaborate watering system, protect it from critters, and I had to weed it almost daily. But I found a better way. A guy by the name of Sepp Holzer from Austria designed what he calls a hugelkultur garden. You dig a hole, put some logs in it, and then pile the rest of everything you would normally put on a composting pile. What you get is a self-nourishing, self-watering, self-weeding, critter-protected composting pile that grows delicious organic produce year-round. For a more encompassing picture of permaculture, let's dive into the first pattern principle of earth care, which expresses the law of interdependency on the planet. Interdependency is actually quite simple. Ecosystems are built on a web of life. This means that every single rock, flower, or human in a landscape has an intrinsic value to carry out certain unique functions that are crucial to the well-being of everything else. Talk about trees. They cleanse water, generate tons of oxygen, and sequester carbon and pollution from the air, and what's best is we don't have to tell them to do any of this. How can you participate in earth care? Start by transitioning away from processed foods coming from industrialized agriculture and begin to support local farms and food that has traveled less miles. The thing is, we don't have to depend on any kind of politician to create new policies to change the world. It's as simple as voting with your dollar. Whatever you support monetarily is what gets to make an impact on the world. There's an entire empire running on dirty fossil fuels, confinement animal operations, and all of the cheap fast food places to sustain it. The thing is, all of this wouldn't exist if not for the support. If everyone in the United States didn't eat at McDonald's or Burger King for a couple days, then those fast food giants would cease to exist. Instead, consumers could buy from farmers markets. They could research where and how to get sustainably produced food, or they could even grow a bit themselves. Next, let's dive into the second pattern principle of permaculture: people care. Similar to earth care, people care is appreciating the fact that community is a natural state of life. Though it isn't talked about nearly enough, people need people. Not faces on a screen or words on a text, but real, tangible human beings. People care is appreciating the fact that the better we can together create physical, mental, emotional, social, spiritual, and intellectual health, the stronger and more resilient communities will become. How can you participate in people care? If a few people in your neighborhood grew a hugelkultur garden instead of parts of a lawn, then you could all trade potatoes for tomatoes, which would save you money at the grocery store. You would increase the nutrient capacity of your diet, and you wouldn't have to mow lawns every week, and you'd develop invaluable relationships with people in your community. Simply by buying a few packets of seed and spending a little more time in your front yard versus in front of a screen, you could rearrange landscapes and lives. And finally, let's explore what the last pillar of permaculture is all about. Though directly tied to earth and people care, fair share encompasses two distinct aspects of living within limits and giving away surplus. Living within limits doesn't mean that we all have to become minimalists and stop consuming so much, but it means living within laws and systems that work holistically, such as promoting biodiversity and sustaining a small ecological impact in size. And giving away surplus doesn't mean that we all have to become commies and we have to share every little thing we get, but what it's hinting at is if we design food production systems right, eventually, Mother Nature will bestow upon us far more tomatoes and onions than we can consume. Therefore, the next best step is to share it. What does fair share look like in the life of an average American? It looks like a permablitz, which is when two or more people come together and spend an entire day turning a degenerative landscape, such as a lawn, into a regenerative investment of a perennial garden. It could even mean schools get involved in growing their own food. How many campuses could be growing fruit and vegetables for lunch every day? How much money would be saved if we turned lawns into edible landscapes? Food is out there. Go grow it. If to understand is to perceive patterns, we must look deeply into our world and thoughtfully learn from its designs. Mother Nature is screaming for our hand, not for us to slap her face and tell her where she stands, but to embrace her and participate in this dance of life throughout the land. We cannot allow our history to be written by corporations driven by greed and governments that lack thought of tomorrow. This isn't a matter of human nature either. We must fulfill the binomial nomenclature of wise man and wisen up. So take my hand and we will rise up, painting a new plan of life upon Mother Nature's canvas, where there's a Garden of Eden around every corner, and your local pharmacy is an actual farm that you can see. Let us be the wave that washes away the destruction of today and paves the way of permaculture design to reach the light of abundance by design. Thank you.